Good morning, everyone. Guess what? Three times this week. That's pretty good. And Joe Clifford is back with a book that is absolutely fantastic. Spy, Lie, and Defy the Untold True Stories of W2's Bravest Women. And I have my favorites, people. In the dead of night, under Nazi occupation skies, brave women parachuted into hell, armed with nothing but courage, cunning, and ingenious I can't see, SGG gadgets that turn everything into weapons of resistance. I think everybody wants one of those. Spylight and Defy plunges into the heart pounding true stories of special operations executives, unsung heroes, fearless agents who bicycled really through enemy lines with hidden radios, rented rooms from Gestapo chiefs while plotting sabotage and facing torture and execution with unremarkable resolve. This book really is educational. I think every child needs to read this. So, my first question is, I'm so impressed with myself. When looking at the cover book you co-authored, was comes to mind. What do you hope readers will see and open as they read the cover of the book? And what I really like is that every section has a famous person in Paul history. Of
Yeah.
course, my favorite person is Eleanor Roosevelt. So how did you decide that?
We went really fast on this, which is not my style. I need a good 6 months to edit. I have, it's meticulous. You have to go line by line by line. I wasn't able to do that this time because of the time frame. But, you know, David and I worked together well, and I turned out a project I think is really, really good. I'm very happy to be involved with it. And I hope David's got another book for his chandeliers. He's got a bunch of other books out that will be you can find too.
I know that if I was still teaching, I would use this. I did. I used a lot of history books, a lot of World War II stuff, and I taught the kids the right way, the history of the world. I didn't just say, this is World War II. I made them read about Hitler. I made them read
Yeah.
about Roosevelt. Yeah. And that's probably why they remind me about that every day on Facebook.
You know,
Because
it's funny. Yeah,
it
it is.
they have to know the right information.
Yeah, it's funny when you get to this kind of stuff and you realize history's written by the
Uh-huh.
victor, right? And you go all the way back to, I don't know, they've shown, you see various maps to show you how little of anything else Europe's.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the reality I know. It's the reality David knows. David was a cop for many years, and yeah, he pivoted to writing despite my best interests, telling him not to. No, he's done a great job. He has several books out in different series. With this, though, I was contracted to write it, and I wrote it very fast. But I liked a lot. A lot of that stuff I think really, really catches on. Every once in a while, you catches lightning a bottle or whatever, however you would describe it. But you catch these moments through the madness where you're able to stop and focus. And of course, writing about the subject matter, with how many women had done things that I had no idea of. And I guess most of the readers wouldn't either. I mean, the cool thing about cool, but okay, let's go cool. The cool thing about the women in this anthology is that they are not only fighting the enemy, they're fighting within the ranks of because they're women, but there's no so it's such a delicate time frame, and the girls would just kick ass. I don't want to call them girls. The women would just kick ass. Some of them died really, really early. I mean, the survival rate for the SEO was near 50%. So they knew this going in. They had one or two chance of dying, right? And they still signed up for it. I think about how my my electricity's goes down and my laptop's not working. I freak out. And here they were like the fate of the world hanging in the balance, and they were like, no, we're jumping in, put on the parachute, let's go.
They were brave. I'll tell you, every time they got somebody, I said, that's from my grandmother. My grandmother was a victim of Bergen-Belsen.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, she was tortured. But it's funny because you always want to know the truth about something. And I had a sixth grade student that was Colin Powell's nephew. And Colin Powell came to my class.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
got to,
good.
I was nervous, but it was exciting to meet
Yeah.
someone. So, how did you decide on these 45 women? And what was their role as spies? They were fighting for our country, and every time they got close and went up in the air, I prayed that they got there. And some of them I actually looked up to see how they did it. because some of
Yeah,
it's on the internet. So I actually watched them do it.
yeah,
So how did you do? And they were fighting for the country. So what is the resistance group and how were they created? Because that's the main thrust of the book.
yeah. And that's where, and this is what David does so well is he picked all of these women knowing their history better than I do. Um, the second part's a little tougher to answer. What's compelling, what's not compelling, what's going to stick, throw it against the wall, to go with your pasta analogies. And all one of the things we did with the time frame was we went with 1,500 words, which is really for me the perfect amount for a story. You go 1,500, you go 750, 1,500, 3,000, and then you're on up. But it just seems something about that magic number there. So we were a little bit tied down to that. But outside of the numbers, Dave just has a great head for what should be written now and how it should be received. And he just whittled them down. And I, took them from there. I look them up, do the research, and if they made, cut the whatever you want to say, they got in there. I can't remember that name word now. Anyway,
Now this is a good important question because I looked up. I got nervous. Which skills were needed to spy, and how did these women, this is great, infiltrate a group of men and women on the other side? And hopefully, well, not everybody didn't get caught, but hopefully they lived to talk about it. And I don't remember, just not very many came through at the
no,
end.
it was a
And,
very
and I
poor success
applauded
rate.
them, all of them. I felt so bad. Every time somebody got killed or died, I cried.
No, it's an emotional book. You
Yeah.
got what's going on now, when 10 years ago. You take the frame and you put it where the current construct is, and you realize how much trouble we're in all the time. We're just one second away from a bad decision. But World War II was also the last of the honest wars. And that's how we remember them. Of course, all wars are brutal, but there's something about World War II where it just seems like we know who the bad guys are, we know who the good guys are, and so everybody on this side, on the good guys' side, is they're always right, and the bad guy side is always wrong. It's easy to do. And I'm not in any way defending Nazis. I'm just saying there's a human component here, and when you touch on that, the realistic, real world experience is always going to best fiction. Um, I read mostly nonfiction now. I write fiction still, but I read mostly nonfiction because it's so much easier. The gravitas fix is so much easier to get your feet in the ground. Um, yeah,
What really brought it to life, which is brilliant, was the pictures. The pictures of all of them. They were all beautiful and very young. They weren't old.
yeah. That was
And
that was Dave. That's all David. What you said was
yeah,
what to go into this. How to cut the mustard, I guess, was
well, I had my favorites. I had a couple of favorites here. Andre Burrell, and there was a couple. I actually did this a lot. And Phyllis Latour. They were interesting. And Yvonne Bassadin. But there were a whole bunch more. But this picture really says it all. As they're
yeah.
going in, yeah, page 178.
Oh yeah, no,
As they're
it's
going in, I mean, and Joan of Arc is my favorite. One life is all we have. We must live it as we see. Believe in God the future. If we don't live it, and there was Joan of Arc. I mean, there's so many pictures, and each face is so expressive in their own way. So how do you work when you're knowing that you're an American? How do you work on the other side? And how many were caught and placed in concentration camps? I mean, after hearing my grandmother wouldn't talk about it. My cousin told me what she went through, and my other grandmother in a Polish concentration camp. I couldn't. My mother's stepmother was amazing. My other grandmother was bitter for the rest of her life.
you can see
Yeah, she
why.
never smiled ever. And until she died, I didn't know why.
Yeah, no,
I had
it's
no idea why. She didn't talk about it. And then at her funeral, they made me look up some stuff. So I gave a speech about what happened to her and my own words that I could figure out. But how did these people survive, these women, knowing
you know,
that they could get killed any minute if they find out?
it's funny because I was reading at the same time when this project came on. Uh, I'm forgetting the name, but it's a famous book on trying to
Yeah.
find the goodness in the bad, uh, and I think that's what makes it most remarkable is knowing how little chance they had, but if they could succeed, if they could pull this off, there was a way out. I love stories like that. I tried to write them fast, a little bit rock and roll kind of beat to it. Yeah, it's my grandfather was a prisoner of war, and he never talked about
Yeah,
it.
that's what I'm saying.
Never spoke about it at all. The only thing we know about that was he was missing for a couple of years and presumed dead, and he was in a German camp, but he never would speak about it. And now he's gone. So the good stuff you talk about, he wouldn't do it the bad stuff. And yeah,
That's horrible.
the success rate is really bad. But if you imagine how being pissed off people are, right? Like how angry people are, and you put in a modern, consultation, put in sort of modern canvas, you see how things could get that bad that fast. Which maybe 8 years ago or whenever before the guy was elected, I had that belief, but certainly it's a feeling of that's so kind of romantic about it too. Romantic in the sense of art is that knowing you're going to die, for a noble cause is at the top of the list, right? If you can pull that off, that's the ultimate sacrifice. And I don't know what I would do. You don't know what you would do. I mean, and these women made this decision. Oftentimes they had children, stayed at home, but they
It's
also knew if they
horrible.
didn't do this, if they didn't pull this off, there wasn't going to be a home to come home to.
I know my grandmother didn't talk about it, but when she died, my cousin told me the story. So in my book, Silent Voices, I told Bertha's story. I wanted everybody to know that she's alive and she's a person. And I never got to know her because she would come to my house and sit on the bench and not say a word. And then
Yeah,
she married, my grandfather died when my father was born. So my father never really got to meet my grandfather, who was a very powerful man. So she married a horrible person, my grandmother. And when he
uh,
came to the house, I said, "Do I call you Charlie or do I call you Grandpa?" He says, "We're nothing to you." I said, "So why did you come?" I said, "The next time Grandma comes, do me a favor, don't come." It was really. So
yeah.
how did these women had families and stuff from before. How do you leave your family to do this? That's
These are the existential questions that you approach as a reader. And when you're writing
yeah,
these sort of things, you're trying to find something compelling.
yeah. Let me tell you, I couldn't put this down.
Good.
45 women, and for me, I read very fast. But for me to read it, and then of course, knowing me, I'm going to destroy, underline, and highlight. And then I started to say, well, let me do this, let me do that. I didn't even know where to begin with some of the questions because there's so many women there. So, do you have one that stands out in your mind the most?
If I wasn't charging my back right now, I would grab the book and run through the list. Well, hold on a second. Put us on mute. Let me grab the book. Hold on. Oh,
Yeah,
goodness
because
gracious.
I have one that I think is the most powerful of all. Also,
Sorry, I shouldn't have this. No, if explained to you, it's pretty bad back. So I'm glad I can get up in the middle of it and have it still keep
that's
working.
all
Yeah.
right.
God, I just need the lives of my faces.
Which one did you like the best?
I'm trying to remember. No, it wasn't Sansom. There's one I really, really liked. Just
They're all so unique.
I just can't remember the. I did this about 6 to 8 week fast turnaround for us. I'm trying to find. Yeah, the Philosopher, I have that one. Oh, Boreal. That's what it was. Boreal. Just real quick, hold on. But this was also, a lot of this has to do also with writing as opposed to, it's what I just enjoy. Which woman we highlighted
Uh-huh.
mattered less than the story of the whole, because, or meant greater than the story of the whole, because these are well, oftentimes they left a very nice life behind, and there are several women here who were married and had little businesses, or they were working higher up in education, but it was just they had something they were giving up in addition to their family. But oftentimes they're also their husband was killed, and that
Yeah.
left this real sort of I don't know. I don't want to say femme fatale because it undermines. But when I wrote this, I very much had that concept. I write mysteries, and this appealed to me because of the fatal flaws, all those aspects of writing that can manifest in the work. But David gave me also David really said, look, here's the list we're working with, and go on. And we did. So we did it. I was writing one of these stories. We went fast. I'm always scared to go back and read something I've had a hand in, because you're gonna find mistakes. Yeah, here we go. Deep Erratic. I don't know if you remember the story.
Yeah, go on.
She lived, after she joined the SOE, she lived about a year, I think. But her story is pretty brutal. Because we're also, anytime you're talking about the survivors of these camps.
I think that's the one I just turned to right here.
Did you? That's funny. Great minds.
Well, she was young,
she was young.
and
She was really young.
She led them to safety. I mean,
She was young. She was angry. She wanted revenge. This has all the story, all the components of a compelling story, right? I think the fact that she was so young and still managed to pull it off, what she did was, you can't ever laud somebody or give them enough praise. My kids call it glazing, but you can't say enough nice things about somebody who lives this kind of life and just decides to give it up for the betterment of man. In the first, early drafts I was doing this, I was attacking a lot the I don't want to say that military infrastructure. I was just attacking the idea more of war, and David rightly so brought it back to individuals, because once you start talking about this in a larger concept, you're never going to stop. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then you talk about motivations and characters, and you can't not compare it to reality, what's happening right now. It's impossible to say this is what happened then. It's no chance of it happening now. So that's always on my shoulder for this whole thing. I'm trying to find out what makes you carry on when you don't want to carry on anymore, but you don't want to die. It's sort of where we are. And then you have people like this who are just, I don't know, kick ass. She was great. I mean, great in Tim's story. At a medium and an arc, beginning, middle, and there's an arc. But yeah, I mean, the success rate was, I think, 47% died. So it's pretty much 1 and 2. You're just rolling, spin around the roulette table.
This one also is the one, Josefina Guerrero with leprosy. And that one really got me also. I mean, I'm looking at her. She's so beautiful. And it's like amazing how each one of these people, is there a war? I know unwounded soldiers. I mean, this was so sad. You could actually, and I don't know if they want, take all 45 women and write one book about each one and have a whole bunch of bestsellers.
Okay, I am sorry, Fran. I didn't realize I have to bring my son to school.
What's the matter?
I have to bring my son to school. He just
You
let me
have to
know.
end it?
Yes, I'm so sorry.
Okay, that's all
I
right.
forgot about he needs a ride. We could definitely do this
Tell
another
your
time.
son hi.
All right, so sorry.
What grade is he in?
He's entering 10th grade. And very
Okay.
politely was like, hey,
You
I
know
gotta go.
what? Let me know if you want to do this over.
Yes, we'll do it. Yeah, let's do it over, and let's pick a better time. I completely forgot.
You'll
But I'll
tell
be in
me
touch.
whenever you're available.